Hello, hydrogen fans. We're back with another powerful episode with Dr. Sunny Nason. We're so thrilled that she's joining us. She is our resident expert naturopath lifestyle guide, all around incredible person. And today she's going to walk you through episode number 2, Skin Deep with Molecular Hydrogen. Dr. Sunny, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. Today, we're having a continued discussion on molecular hydrogen. As promised, I am going to discuss some real-time therapeutic uses for molecular hydrogen, including my own. So I love being able to come and have some discussions about this subject matter because it's prompted me to go down memory lane with some lessons I've learned in the past, but it also allows me to research and see where the studies have brought us in our knowledge base. This topic has actually come up quite a bit in the last maybe 9 months for me professionally. So I saw this image with a spiral here online recently. I think it sums it up nicely about our life paths, but also about science. It's always evolving. So it says that the path isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. You continually come back to things you thought you understood and see deeper truths. So, and of course, hydrogen is not brand new on the scene here. Maybe the practical application of such is catching on more specifically in the United States. Science refers to us as carbon-based life forms, but humans are also hydrogen-based life forms. So we cannot live without hydrogen. When plants absorb sunlight, they store hydrogen through photosynthesis. When you eat raw or unprocessed plants, your body's cells utilize the nutrients in the plants with the electrical charge of the hydrogen ions in those plants. And so when your body burns the hydrogen and oxygen, it generates the energy that you need for the process of life. So we talked about water in the last webinar. Water is formed when hydrogen is burned or oxidized by oxygen. And it's created every day in our bodies as we burn hydrogen to create ATP. So it's a continuous cycle that generates both water and energy. Now, the first scientist to talk about hydrogen was this man here, Dr. Albert Saint-Georges. He was known notably for his work with vitamin C, but he was also known for his work in identifying the reactions that liberate energy from hydrogen. Really a remarkable career that he had. I just went down a rabbit hole with him, but and I remember this from years ago, reading about him, and it was so interesting to really expand on the components of hydrogen that he was working with. But he explained that one of the basic principles of biology, hydrogen and oxygen interact in a delicate balance, releasing energy and delivering it to the cells in tiny portions. And what he said was, hydrogen is, in fact, the only fuel the body knows. The food stuff, such as carbohydrate, is essentially a packet of hydrogen, a hydrogen supplier, a hydrogen donor. And the main event during its combustion is the splitting off of hydrogen. So the combustion of hydrogen is the real energy supplying reaction, right? And he showed that the human body stores hydrogen in many of its organs. He called this hydrogen pooling. And he identified that the liver as an organ pools the most hydrogen because it requires hydrogen to neutralize the free radicals produced during detoxification. This is what hydrogen does best: neutralize free radicals and combines with them to turn them into water. Now, I want to show you something. As I told you, we're going to discuss some testimonial and some uses and results using molecular hydrogen. So are any of you familiar with face mapping? We have a grid of the entire body that we can see mapped out only in miniature forms, mapped out on things like our hands, right? So our hand can be a grid for the whole body, or your foot, which is used in reflexology. We have the entire body as a grid in the iris of your eye. This is where iridology comes from. And that goes side to side, left and right components of that to the eye. And then we have also mapping of the body on the face. And so these mapping areas are very useful because we can see outward signs and trace where they might have a hindrance to the body or a blockage or an overexertion happening in the body by locating bumps or blemishes, redness, skin irritations in those areas. On the body, sometimes, for example, we might see small bumps like on the back of the arm, like right around here. And for example, this usually indicates heavy metals in the liver or the kidneys. Some, of course, may be contact issues. Okay. We're not going to discredit those, but some that last for a long time, by the time you see these types of irritations or bumps, the issue has been happening internally for a long time. So if you were to look at the face, this one is a simple one here. So I wanted to start with this because some of the face mappings, they just look a little bit different. I wanted to give you examples, getting a little bit more in depth on them. So if you take a look, what I want you to do is take a look on right above the ear, see where it says liver and then heart. Right above that, we see bladder in this one. Okay. The small intestine, you can start to say, oh wow, look at where that might show something on my skin based on what's happening in your body. Now if we go to this next one, which just gets a little bit more in depth, we can see the regions, right, starting to look at pieces of the colon, things like that, spleen, stomach, pancreas. I love looking at this. And sometimes you can really see if you've had food irritation happening in the large or small intestine over a long period of time, and you'll see that happening, on the face. Some people think that they have maybe rosacea, but it might be, maybe a food allergy, something like that. There's even recent studies where certain postbiotics strains were looked at and found that when they're using them, it would rid the skin of irritations. And that, of course, was linked to gut issues, right? Particularly probably the large and small intestine. But when we go to the next one here, which is actually from this face mapping, is actually from a person that does acupuncture. So these are super specific. And I love this one because if you look up near the top of the forehead, right around here, I wanted to share something with you personally. Okay. So I used to have this mole that was growing on the side of my head. Now, I did look through my medical records to try to find a picture for you all, but I couldn't find it right this minute. I might have to try to share that with you later. However, I had this little mole that was growing, and I noticed it one day when I was brushing my hair. And over time, maybe over about 2.5 years, it ended up being raised and changing shape. So, that is an indicator. Well, you want to really pay attention to that because it's changing, right? And so could be cancerous, any number of things. But if you look at where the mapping shows you, then what it covers over these 3 renditions of the mapping is that it would cover heart, liver, and bladder. Now, I have a sensitive bladder because I'm very clean. I have a very clean body, let's say, but sensitive to soaps. So not like infections or anything, but just a sensitivity to soaps. Well, a lot of soaps carry things that my body doesn't really react very well with. So we have different fragrances in there. We have artificial ingredients. We've got all the LOURDES, right? The things that you want to avoid, and then maybe different palm oils and things. So if I move away from having that, if I move away from having my soaps that don't carry those things, and then I reintroduce that back in, there's just an awareness there. But over time, when you've got oxidative stress that's continually happening, we talked about this in the last episode, where the balance becomes off. Now you've got too much oxidative stress that's happening, and an inflammatory response starts happening in that. And the next thing you know, an outward sign starts to show itself, starts to reveal itself on your body. And so you pay attention to those outward signs. And so what did I do? The only difference that I did was I had ordered myself a LOURDES hydrogen machine. And I started drinking the water every day. And I am not even kidding you that you can't even tell that I had a little mole there. It wasn't so little, really. It was maybe the size of my fingernail, and it was raised. It is completely gone. And so when we're looking at where people are these days in terms of self-care, practitioners moving into functional medicine, we're looking for the root of where those things come from. Okay. This was an outward sign of something that had been happening in my body over a period of time. And I was able to introduce something as incredible as molecular hydrogen. And just by drinking the water, my skin irritation, the mole, completely left my body. There's not even a trace of it. You cannot tell that it existed there. So that is personal, but it is so fantastic that, it only leads its way into, we're looking for how we can help a myriad of things, starting from where the root of an issue is. And we know that inflammation causes a whole myriad of issues in the body. So if we can rid the body of the oxidation, of the inflammation, just to start, right, then what else does that end up happening for the body? Now, if this was over liver spot, if you were to take the face graph and to expand it out into where the scalp goes, this is why I'm saying I think it was on the border, right, of liver, heart, or liver bladder. But literally liver, if you could just focus on helping your liver, do you know how many things that the liver has to do? What are the functions of our liver? It helps to prevent shortages of nutrients by storing vitamins, minerals, sugar. And now we know it stores the most hydrogen, because the most hydrogen needs to be there to have the largest effect on this big organ that we have that does so many things for us. Producing most proteins needed by the body. Look at all of the functions. I mean, we all know this, right? We do, but sometimes if you see it in writing and you realize, our liver really does have a lot of responsibility for helping us metabolize things as well as rid the body of things. Okay. And we know now that molecular hydrogen can actually help improve lipid metabolism. It helps with the production of cell protective enzymes that the liver needs also. And so what are the other things that would be the spiral effect, like we had spoken about before, by just allowing the liver to be functioning properly? Okay. Meanwhile, creating an environment for normal range of cell cleaning, right? And autophagy. We want a normal range of autophagy to happen. So some of the other things that we can work on would be injury of the heart, the liver, the intestines, aiding injury from cisplatin nephrotoxicity, for those of you familiar with that, sepsis, colon inflammation. These are things that are now reported over hundreds of times in the literature that's out there right now. So now I actually want to show you another testimonial. And this one is, instead of looking at internal, it's going to be an external influence that had harmed a person's body. Let's take a look at the next slide, where we see a person who had a testimonial that was sent in. This is Bruce. And because of his work, he's a professional plumber. And his hands cracked and dried because of a result of the extreme dehydration that he's got on his hands caused by the chemicals and glue primers used in his daily profession. Take a look at what he has sent in. This is what happened before this is daily, and he lived with this for a very long time. This was happening before he applied the molecular hydrogen therapy. Now, here's what happened after. And the results here, less than 1 month of drinking the hydrogen water. Today, we're just talking about the application of drinking the hydrogen water, okay? And so look at the side by side. And so about a month, right? And all of a sudden he's able to, pick up his grandkids without snagging their skin or the clothing, or even just have, shake somebody's hand, let alone the friction that was caused by his cracked skin for years. What an amazing testimonial for that. Now, when we're talking about the application of molecular hydrogen, there are a few ways that you can do this. The inhalation of the hydrogen gas, which we're going to talk about more in the next episode. Today, we were really talking about drinking the water with the hydrogen in it, right? There's a use of a saline solution with hydrogen as eye drops. This gets into the more sort of clinical application. What I'd like to suggest is clinical application. Taking a hydrogen bath, this one could be very useful. I'm going to say even with your skin, let's say with your hands, and you fill the sink with the molecular hydrogen, and then you just dunk your hands in there. That one would be very effective because I'm going to talk about it being a noble gas and the shelf life of that in a second, and also then injecting a saline solution with dissolved hydrogen, more clinical again. But these are just examples. You start to see all of the applications of molecular hydrogen. We're lucky to be able to do a lot of this right from home with the LOURDES HYDROFIX. I'd like to talk to you about what some people might call anecdotal evidence. We're at a time where more practitioners are moving into an integrated approach where they look for the root of a disturbance, an irritation, a dis-ease, and we calling that functional medicine. This means individual approach, because none of us arrive at our current state of health exactly the same way, nor have we experienced a trauma in the exact same way. Let's just say that you have a head injury. There's a number of choices that you have for treatment. And I think we've moved beyond thinking that taking a Tylenol is going to fix the issue. Okay, you had a head injury. Someone may suggest that you use a hyperbaric chamber. Today, there are a lot of places to receive a hyperbaric treatment. There are actually wings of hospitals now dedicated to just hyperbaric. And when you go there, you see a whole myriad of issues stemmed from a head injury that are being treated. And they're addressing all of them with that. So there are at least 100 studies readily available to visit and read about how the application of hydrogen can impact a myriad of health-related issues, chronic issues even, stemming from inflammation and oxidation of free radicals, just to start. And to finish that point, when you're with an integrated team of professionals helping to heal a patient, we're looking at an individual with their own set of circumstances to reach where they are on their health path. It's not about every person being a cookie cutter of the other person. We're not talking about the tissues cellularly, what we're made up of course. We're addressing what the physical body has become in that moment. And it is so amazing when a colleague can call and say, not who the person is, but to say what was presented in the office, how long a person has been suffering, and to share the outcome of progress and success, because that person was recognized and treated fully and holistically as an individual. So some may lean toward the idea, if it's not cookie cutter, then it's anecdotal, but we need to hear about the progress and health successes with each individual person, as well as them possibly having overlapping types of issues that can present and having experience with those things. let alone, the other items that we discuss, that you'll learn the application of molecular hydrogen in conjunction with or in partnership to some other self-help regimens that cause a greater effect. The skin is our largest organ, and it's been fantastic to be able to see the results going from the outside in, but also knowing that we're nurturing from the inside out and what the results are topically. I'd love to see your testimonials of what's happening skin deep. And I'd like to actually progress more on this in the next episode when I talk about redox signaling. We're going to dig in a little bit more, and we'll talk about the inhalation of hydrogen as well and why it's beneficial to do both. So please join me next time when we continue our discussion on molecular hydrogen. It's been wonderful having you today. Thank you.